Hey everyone!
I'm Sarah.
And I'm Carm.
And we're S&C. So let's get right into today's video. It's the first of the month, which means that if you've been keeping up with us, you've finished all the missing girls and you're ready for an analysis. For those of you who haven't read the book, definitely wait until the end or jump to the end where we're going to reveal next month's book. And we strongly urge you to read all the missing girls if you can fit it into your schedules. So for those of you who don't know, the book is about a girl named Nicolette, goes back to her hometown after not being there for about a year. And when she's there, the memory of her best friend who was missing 10 years ago is brought back up because another girl goes missing in this town. And it is definitely a book about family and about the past and, history repeating itself. And along the way, Nicolette has to cope with a lot of things that have happened to her and come to terms with them. You all know already that we have our questions that we answer monthly to these books, and that's what we're going to stick to. Now, the book does come with its own, so definitely encourage you to take those into consideration when reading them, just to get a better experience with the book.
So the first question in our discussion is, which event in the story causes all others? And so what I said was, the disappearance of Corinne Prescott is the inciting event in the book. From there, we have a town that is practically ripped to shreds during the investigation. Nick leaves home and is forced to return as her father's condition worsens, and Annalise disappears too.
So I said something different. I said that when Nicolette gets the letter from her father saying that he saw that girl, and this was back when she was in Philadelphia, I thought that was the inciting moment because it kind of pushes her to go back home and to ask her father these questions about bringing up a girl who disappeared 10 years ago. You know, it was highly mentioned in the book, and the brother kept saying it, like, he was like, go home, like, you don't have to be here. So
when did he say that?
Several times he kept asking her, like, he was like, if you want to leave, leave.
No, but he asked her to come.
He asked her to come, yes. So I think it was when Nick received the letter from her father.
Okay, yeah, it's different from mine because I feel like she wouldn't have received that letter if Corinne hadn't disappeared.
Okay. So the second question is, what is the book's climactic scene and how did the author build up to it? So I guess I'll go first. I'll address the building up to it part. And it is very difficult because, mind you, this whole book was done in like a reverse order. So the author starts off by sharing with us day one of Nicolette being back at her hometown, and then starts part two by starting it at day 15 and works back to day one. So it goes in reverse order, and it's a little hard to follow because you want to pick a point where it's like, okay, is this the climactic scene if it were in the correct order, or is this the climactic scene of it being in the actual way that the author herself laid it out for us? So yeah, so how she built up to the climactic scene. And it was day two, and we were kind of told how Annalise was connected to Corinne's murder and how she was involved with the Farrell family. We had just discovered all that blackmail was happening. It was definitely a turning point when the author reveals that Annalise was involved with the truth and she used it as a form of blackmail. Nearing the end of the novel, the reader finds out that Annalise has a photo of Corinne's body at the Farrell house and a man dragging it. Annalise explains that after Corinne's disappearance, she wanted to test out her new camera. She'd always been attracted to the haunted atmosphere surrounding the Farrell house, and upon uploading the images to the computer, noticed the body. So the climactic scene is when the narrative returns to the defining moment at which Nick and Tyler are standing in the living room of the Farrell house, and Tyler has just said he found the body in the field. Daniel has told her over the phone to run. She asks Tyler if Annalise is dead, and he says that he saw her lying in the field with a gunshot wound. They both wonder if it was Daniel that shot her. The public would think his motivations were related to the secret affairs with Annalise. They think that he'd kill her to save his marriage, but it is in this moment that Nicolette realizes the version of the story doesn't make sense. Daniel couldn't have killed her because he had lost her at the river on the night that they had followed her. In the moment of clarity, Nick realizes Laura killed Annalise. After running to the motel, Annalise had called Daniel's house to speak to Laura as a last resort. Her only way out, tell her about the dangerous husband, his dangerous family. That was page 343. That's what I think is the
Yeah, that's a good one. I actually I thought of that as a secondary climatic scene because I said that the first climatic scene was Daniel, Tyler, and Nick discovering Corinne's body buried under the garage floor. And it's kind of funny how you mentioned how the true climatic scene, or the climatic scene in the way that the author laid out the book.
Yeah, so
it's like it wasn't one linear story. It's really hard to decipher
and on what turning points. And there's definitely there's the plot of Annalise's disappearance and what was present, and then the subplot of what was happening 10 years ago.
And I considered the 10 years ago one primary.
Okay.
So I said, Miranda builds up to this scene by having Nick work backwards 2 weeks until it happened. In those 2 weeks, we learn a lot about the aftermath of both Corinne and Annalise's disappearance. But like I said, I considered Annalise's secondary. Then we are placed at the scene where Daniel is angry, outside digging. Nick calls Tyler for help, hoping he will be able to stop her brother. But when Tyler arrives, they dig up the garage as a team. From there, they see an old family blanket wrapped around a dead body. They know it's Corinne.
See, now I understand, I guess that even makes sense of why we were different in our first answer too, because it's
What was your first answer?
Nick gets the letter to come back.
It's not so much. That one's purely a
difference of opinion.
A difference of opinion, because I'm thinking of it as, where does this all stem? Okay, a girl disappeared 10 years ago. You're saying, oh, she went home because her dad sent her a letter.
Okay.
But the letter, then I'll say, but the letter was about the girl that died 10 years or disappeared 10 years ago.
And then I just wrote as a final little piece to this question, the story comes full circle as Nicolette again enters an investigation with the same detective that stepped in during Corinne's case. So question number 3 is, does the book's ending resolve the plot? If it doesn't, do you think this was intentional? What else do you want to know? So I said yes, the book's ending resolves the plot as we discover the truth about all the missing girls, both Annalise and Corinne, and even Nicolette. I feel the author did an excellent job of tying any loose ends, and I'm completely satisfied with the novel's conclusion. There is one little detail I wish the author would have included, but I'll touch upon that later when we discuss symbols.
I said the same thing. I said that it was completely wrapped up, and by the end, Nick believes she's paying all her debts, but at least she's home. And then I said, unlike the last book we read for book club, there's nothing important I believe Miranda left out of the story.
Yeah, she definitely touched on every point, and it was all the themes that she had introduced at the start were concluded. Mm-hmm. Every symbol was used fully, so I 100% love this book. Mm-hmm. So moving right along to question 4 then.
How might the story be different if it was from another character's point of view?
Okay, I kind of went into this one, but
the fact here is that it would have been very different
from everybody's point of view.
But that's almost like any story, though.
Yes. Unlike the last novel we reread as a part of the book club series, I respected the author's ending to all the missing girls. It is this level of respect for which I feel the story can only be told by a few select characters. For example, choosing Everett as the narrator wouldn't have fit the natural outcome of the novel. Everett would have altered the bittersweet ending of the Farrell family having to stay together in Cooley Ridge to protect the family from its darkest secrets. Instead, the reader would have gotten a half-assed wrap-up of him picking up the pieces and moving on with his life. The same is true if the story had been told from any other character that's not a part of the Farrell family.
Yeah.
Therefore, I think suitable substitutes for Nicolette as the storyteller would have been Laura, Mr. Farrell, or Tyler. But anyways, out of those ones I listed, I thought Laura would be a great...
That's a good one. I didn't put her down, but that's a good one.
I thought Laura would be a great...
new narrator. Substitute narrator.
Laura is a soon-to-be mother and protects her family at all costs. She knew about Daniel and Annalise's affair, but still did what she thought was necessary to defend its livelihood. Laura is Nicolette's character foil, where Laura consciously made the decision to shoot Annalise as a means of protecting her family. Nicolette kills Corinne in a game of chicken. Then again, Corinne should have known better, as Nicolette never backs down from a dare. And where Nicolette can't come to terms with having killed Corinne because she didn't even recognize it for those 10 years, Laura knew that she was going to kill her and did it without hesitation because she thought that's what was right in that moment. Laura, knowing very decidedly that she wants to keep her family intact, decides to mend her relationship with Daniel, whereas Nick was okay with not wanting to confront her brother about kissing Corinne the night of the fair. She saw, but chose not to admit it, where Laura knew full well that they were having that affair and decided to come to terms with it and move past it. Whereas Nick was still fixating on that. The fact that it had been 10 years and she's still thinking about her brother, that one time they kissed behind the Ferris wheel, is a little much.
Yeah.
So, and then I said, and the most apparent difference between the two females, Laura still having a baby, where Nicolette lost hers.
Wow, that's a really good analysis.
Yeah, they are complete character foils.
Yeah, that's a really good one.
And so that's why I think it would have been a very interesting perspective if it would have been her, because they were literally contrasted each other.
That's a really good one.
It was 2 a.m. I was writing in my room, writing these questions out, and I felt it hit me. I was like, oh,
yeah, that's
they're
really
character
good. I
foils.
did not think of that. Yeah. I said, if this story was told from Annalise's perspective, I think the story would have been very different and very interesting. We would have heard the story of her possible obsession with Corinne, her treatment of classmates in school as if she were trying to replicate Corinne's antagonistic behaviors, her art and her photography, her realization of what actually happened to Corinne, and her blackmail of Nick's father, her affair with Daniel. I really think that would have been a good read too.
Yeah. Definitely.
But a completely different story.
A twisted mind, just like so
she was obsessed.
Yeah. Yeah. Like with that scene.
And for bad reasons. She just wanted to make money. Or
yeah. Like what was it for? Because
I don't know. Yeah,
I know.
It was really weird.
Like in that scene where Nicolette breaks into Annalise's apartment cabin, and she notices like there's photos on the wall, but then she looks underneath the bed and there's like the box of like paintings where Nicolette herself has been removed from all of them.
They're just Corinne.
And she's like, wait, but I know this photo.
There.
I was there. I was in it.
Yeah,
so the fact that she went out of her way to like recreate this narrative,
where it was just these stories where it was just Corinne.
Yeah. And didn't even know the girl. She was a year younger than them. All she really was to them was an alibi, and yet.
Yeah, maybe, but that's why. Maybe because when you have those experiences, especially as a child, you fixate on them.
She did see a lot. She was there for everything.
Pretty much.
She saw jumping off the Ferris wheel, Daniel hitting her, Daniel kissing Corinne. She was there for it all.
Yeah, I think that was supposed to be a
foreshadowing
of her mental health.
Okay.
Mental illness, pretty much, I think.
So go ahead, read question 5 for us.
Does this story have an antagonist or villain? What traits does this character reveal about the story's hero? And I said, for me, it's unclear which character Miranda set up to be the hero and the villain. In some aspect, Nick was the antagonist, in others, Corinne. Overall, it was as if Nick was her own antagonist or the town was the ultimate antagonist. I don't think there was a hero. If anything, Laura was the unsung hero of the story.
I thought so too. Okay, so...
But the town... And Nick herself.
Yeah, so answering the question, does it have an antagonist or villain? So I think it's safe to say that neither Annalise nor Corinne were Nicolette's antagonists. First of all, they weren't characters that interacted with Nicolette in the story's timeline, as they were both disappeared and were only made available in memories. It also ties in with the theme of right and wrong, as it stands that these characters, though they acted maliciously towards Nicolette at times, does not make them her enemy or foe. They all do bad things to each other, but they were all friends, and Nicolette has even clearly said it that she needed Corinne and that they thrived with they thrived on each other. So it wouldn't be them, even though it was kind of painted towards them. And so
but it wasn't.
It wasn't. And I said, however, what does prove to be an adversary for Nicolette is time. It is why she must place her life piece by piece in random ordering rather than sequential. This is why Nicolette continues to hear tick-tock Nick throughout the 2 weeks of the novel. Time is mocking her for not discovering the truth. Time is threaded through Nick's life as she recalls her father's lecture on it being an abstract topic and yet feels she's running out of it.
Yeah.
Number 6 was, are there any particularly striking visual symbols in the book? What do you think they represent?
I can only imagine this is going to be a long one.
Yeah, I have like 7 symbols.
Okay, I'll read mine first, and then you can go into the ones that I don't say, because
Okay.
I'm only imagining what I say is what you've said.
Okay.
So I said, firstly, let's go with the Russian nesting dolls. Nick has all of these layers that she hasn't revealed even to herself, let alone the other people in her life. The dolls represent the need to disguise her deepest thoughts, fears, and secrets from herself and hide them in various layers of her personality. The fair and the Ferris wheel, I'll go into the Ferris wheel as well, represents themes of childlike immaturity amongst the group of primary and secondary characters. Also could be that sometimes at fairs you experience tricks and illusions of carnival experience that might have alluded to the theme of truth and lie and the fact that not everything is as it seems. The Ferris wheel could represent the motion of time and the role it plays in the story.
That's really good. Yeah, I didn't get the fair thing, But that's actually really good.
Yeah.
Like carnival games.
And then, no, it's
all
also
that,
and also how it was broken.
illusionist and-
Her ice cream falls off. They fight at the fair. They're not kids anymore, but they still act like kids.
And how Annalisa's seeing it all, but she too doesn't actually know the truth.
But she's just a kid.
Yeah.
Her ice cream
That's
is
very
melting
good.
off her cone.
So just to add on to that, I really went into the Ferris wheel being a concept, like a motif of time, how it depicts like something cyclical, and that it's doomed for history to repeat the cycle if not broken.
Yep.
And the main reason why I want to just talk a little bit more about this one is because I mentioned how I wish the author did something, and I wish that the author would have been very cathartic if the Ferris wheel
started going backwards.
Backwards.
Okay.
I was just gonna say, like, if it like came down, or they had to close it, or they had to move it away because of like just the Ferris wheel being taken away from the town.
Yeah, but time doesn't stop. She can't confront it, but time will. And
then I said, or even more simply, so yeah, they would
have been actually,
or even more simply, if there had been a scene where Nicolette, went once more, maybe with her child, knowing that she had lost a child there.
Yeah, well, that's a little.
It's just, I think it would have been a little cathartic.
The author wouldn't have gone
crying.
I think,
or maybe there was a fire. Like fire's always used as a tool for
catharsis.
Yes. So I don't know, something bringing it back to the Ferris wheel and having
maybe I could see how, because if you're saying that the Ferris wheel represents time, it almost would have been cool if it had gone backwards. Yeah, but then to what you were talking about, or what I was talking about, just also reminded me of one other point. It's like how she jumps off of it. She's lost her grip on the motion of time.
Yeah,
she didn't accidentally. She chose
because she was playing into one of her and Corinne's game.
That she chose to jump, to lose her grip on time, just like in this. She chose to because she couldn't have it any other way. She kept saying, "I can't approach it in any other direction but backwards."
Yeah. So I don't know, I like your point better, but I was just trying to say, I wish the author would have done something one more time with that Ferris wheel, because it was always there looming over the town.
Yes, but that's the thing, because time doesn't stop.
Yeah, okay, so I just wish something would have, that she brought it back to it or something like that.
Yeah. Okay, so then let me go on to another one, the woods. Another visual symbol that could represent the complexity of human nature and the town of Cooley Ridge, both at the same time. So I'm saying human nature and the town itself are the woods. Overgrown and difficult to navigate, both the woods and both human nature and the town itself.
Yes, yep.
Could be hiding something sinister, both in your human nature and the town itself. Easy to get lost determining fact and fiction in your own human nature and in the town itself. Sometimes inescapable.
Yes. So I said for the forest, or the woods, I said the novel setting plays a crucial role in shaping the lives of the characters. The forestry in Cooley Ridge, with its rivers and caverns, has particular associations and is threaded to specific memories. Not to mention that all of it is looming between the Farrell property and the Carter estate.
That's a good point.
When they were children, Nick and her friends would play in the meadows. As teenagers, they would explore the dangerous caverns. As they grow older, these places take on new meanings. The forest is a space shared between generations. There, where secrets in the woods and the past rising and overlapping, an unstoppable trail of dominoes already set in motion. Page 103.
Another one that we both said
were the rings.
And I said, as we experience Nick finding and losing rings given to her at different points of her life, I think that represents Nick's inability to hold true relationship, maybe because there are parts of her she needs to understand before a relationship could even be a possibility. The rings could also have alluded to Nick's unreliability, even in her narration, because she hasn't been careful with her personal possessions either. So she's unreliable, and she can't be in a relationship. Yeah, she's selfish.
So I said, so yes, the rings are a physical representation of her lost, of her loves. But I also said it's not only that it's the representation of those relationships that she has, but it's also the relationship of it's also the representation of what she lost. So she lost Everett, because remember, day one was when she figured out all this kind of stuff, even though in the book's perspective we didn't get to it until the very end, but she got there right away. So it's just a representation, like she knows right away she can't be in a relationship with Everett.
That's funny.
And no wonder throughout the whole book you're saying, I lost the ring. You didn't lose the ring, you actually still have it. You give it, Annalise, you got it back from her. You got it back from her dead body.
I don't think that they said it turned up.
Yeah, it did.
Are you sure?
You 100%.
I thought Tyler said that they haven't found a ring yet.
So first of all, you didn't lose a ring. That's a lie, and you were lying to Everett as soon as he came back to Cooley Ridge, because you know you have to, because you're a murderer. Second of all, like, if you can't even come to grips with that yourself, you're losing that relationship. So the 2 rings are a source of loss for Nicolette, because she lost Everett the moment she went back to Cooley Ridge, and she lost Tyler 10 years ago when they lost their child, when she couldn't own up to the fact that she killed Corinne, and Tyler had to perpetually lie to her, and she lost him when she decided to go without him.
Yeah, and I think that, and then lost, but it's stemming from her unreliability and selfishness.
Yeah, 100%.
And then I had one more that I don't know if you said. Did you say the caverns?
I said I connected it with the forest.
Yeah, because I said, much like the woods, the people of Cooley Ridge use the caverns to hide their darkest secrets and even create stories to tell rumors of the most wicked things that had ever happened in the town, stemming from the caverns.
And there was that one very descriptive scene in the book where they were talking about that couple who lost each other.
And they lost each other in the caverns, and the rumor was that he killed his wife there and ditched the body.
Yeah, but he was there in the morning when they found that's how crazy that the story...
The town is, that they thrive on rumors.
Yeah. One symbol that we hadn't touched on yet together was Annalise's artwork. When Nicolette goes to Annalise's apartment to search for evidence, she notices that the walls are covered with pictures of girls. Underneath the bed, she finds a box with the sketches that hadn't made it onto the wall, including one of Corinne that is a replica of the picture that had hung in Nick's room. These photos, taken by Bailey, have been adopted not only to not include Nick, as Annalise focuses entirely on Corinne, the artwork of Annalise's version of reality. So it just shows that that's how distorted reality is in this book. It's the physical byproduct of her obsessive interest with Annalise's artworks, highlights the theme of distorted reality in the novel. This theme develops through Mr. Farrell's mental illness, as he confuses truth with mindless delusions, and having effects on his children. Yeah, that's true. Yeah, and has an effect on his children's grapplings with reality. The theme grows as Nicolette questions her involvement in Corinne's disappearance 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's true.
And then I also mentioned eyes. Just that the imagery of eyes watching as a means of finding external source of accountability to an internal struggle Nicolette was going through while trying to come to terms with what happened to her and Corinne 10 years ago. Nicolette found the pressure of the town watching her as a motivator in figuring out the truth faster. Yeah. So as long as there were people watching her, whether it be actual people or even the missing posters of Annalise, Nicolette knew... Yeah, that's true,
actually, yes.
Nicolette knew she would have to untangle herself from the disappearance, just like she had done when it had been her friends 10 years before.
Yeah, but it's kind of funny because then you remember how, there was those scenes where they were in the church basement and there were all those posters with her big eyes.
Yeah.
That's already after she knows what happened.
Yeah, like
you know what happened. Yeah. Like, why are you acting as if you don't know?
Yeah. The last symbol, Corinne's cold case box. So this box symbolizes the theme of truth and distorted realities. Nicolette describes Corinne's case as a joke, stating that all had happened was the town's police officers did an effective job in starting rumors and spilling Corinne's private personal life. However, what appeared to be Corinne's secrets were actually Nicolette's. Yeah. Which is crazy. Yeah. How much do you not want to come to terms with that you're even calling them at some point she called them Corinne's ring and Corinne's pregnancy test.
Yeah, at the beginning, which would have been 14 days later.
Yeah, it's what? Okay. Yeah. So I said, these tokens actually belonging to Nick heavily foreshadowed her being Corinne's murderer. If so much of her disappearance belongs to Nicolette, then isn't it obvious that so would her death?
But we also don't find it out until...
That's why it's foreshadowing.
Yeah, I know.
Okay.
No, I know, but that's because she's so unreliable, too.
Yes,
that's
exactly.
Why the story has to be told backwards.
Of course, yeah.
Because you can sometimes you can pick out foreshadowing if you're trying to guess the...
ending.
The ending.
But you can't guess the ending in this one. It's... because the ending is actually the beginning, which is the ending, which is the beginning. It's like, what?
What am I guessing here?
Yeah, what? So,
because I know the ending.
So what once looked like defending a friend's private life, hey, you can't talk about that. That's not your right to gossip about. Now looks like
her protecting herself.
Yeah, now looks like a very transparent attempt to keep motive and means unknown.
Yeah, that's funny, yeah. Because but it also goes back to the whole like the nesting dolls. It's like all these things that are tucked away that we don't confront.
Yes, yeah. Okay, so now something a little lighter.
If you were making this book into a movie, who would you cast in the lead roles? So once again, we did this one together because it gets a little bit difficult when you're trying to think of who would represent what you were creating in your head.
Yes, yeah.
So what we came up with was Brie Larson as Nicolette Farrell, Karen Gillan as Corinne Prescott, Katrina Bowden as Annalise Carter, Garrett Hedlund as Daniel Farrell, Luke Benward as Tyler Ellison, and Sasha Pietiers from Pretty Little Liars as Laura.
Can I just say Laura again is my favorite character?
Yeah.
And Sasha would play her so well.
Yeah. Okay, what is your favorite moment or quote?
Okay, so I picked a moment and I said, in the last chapter, 2 months later, Nicolette describes what it's like to be with Tyler, having someone who knows everything about you and still be there to wrap your arms around you. I thought that it was just very sweet and endearing.
That was almost like the emotional conclusion
to the book, and that's why it's my favorite part.
Yeah. I chose a quote and I said, "The woods have eyes and monsters and stories. We are them as much as they are us." And I said, this is my favorite quote from the book because it was the perfect example of how each character had something to lie about, something to cover up, something that the whole town would chatter about but never confront. It goes to show that this small town with its woods and its secrets was the monster just the same as the people living in it.
Yeah. That is like a quote that just perfectly articulates the main theme of the whole book. Of the whole book.
So that was everything that we had to analyze and discuss about the book, All the Missing Girls.
And yeah, now we just have to mention what our book for August is going to be.
But I'd like to point out that this time the book blog post that we'll leave linked down below along with the discussion questions for your review will actually be Sarah's full analysis. Whereas last time we posted a blog post that was basically the discussion that we had together. This time, because this book kind of really deserves it, the blog post is going to be Sarah's analysis.
And also our playlist that we think perfectly encaptures the book's themes, imagery. Yeah. So August's book is If I Never Met You by Mhairi McFarlane. And basically what the book is about, set in London, or sorry, not London, Manchester.
Oh, really?
Yeah. Why?
Does it have British humor?
Yes.
I wonder if I'll like it.
I think you will.
Okay, we'll see.
That's why I started using words like proper the other day and stuff like that. Quite and utterly.
Yeah, I don't know if I like British stuff.
Well, we're reading it. So I guess you'll find out at the end of this month. So the book is about 36-year-old Laurie, who is a person of color and working at a law firm. And she has to deal with just little things that happen in her day that some of her other white co-workers place on her, while also dealing with the fact that her ex-boyfriend of 18 years had just dumped her and started dating someone else, and starting a fake romance with the office bad boy.
Fake.
Yes.
Interesting.
So it's definitely lighthearted compared to All the Missing Girls.
Yeah.
I'm excited for it. I love British humor. You clearly are not a fan, but
I don't know if I'll like it.
I think you will. And the author does a very good job of placing you there without overloading your senses.
Okay.
So I think you'll forget about it.
Okay.
I don't think I've read other works of her, but I've definitely heard of her other works. Like You Had Me at Hello was one of her biggest success. So that's all for this month's book club. Don't forget to subscribe and join the SNC family, and that way you'll get reminders of when to read what. Yep. And also press that like button. Let us know if you're enjoying this content. Please start a dialogue in the discussion box below. We'd love to know your thoughts about All the Missing Girls, or if there are maybe any recommendations. Because we thoroughly loved that book. Yeah, and also just if you like what to read next. And yes, if you'd like for us to read something specific.
Yeah.
So other than that, hope to see you soon.